autism be cured or alleviated by changing one's diet? Some say yes. We'll tell you about it today, along with the importance of our gut health and one diet that many believe can alleviate conditions like autism, ADHD, depression, anxiety, and other chronic ailments, all within the big picture of our Catholic faith today. On The Simple Truth, we consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the Pure Strong Heart of St. Joseph. I'm Jim Havens. It is Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul, with our co-host, my lovely wife, Becky Havens. She's a Catholic wife and mother with a passion and calling to educate people about the importance of caring for our bodies that the Lord has blessed us with by living a healthy lifestyle. She helps others to think outside the cultural norms and to be their own advocate while not falling into the many pressures of modern medicine. She's the author of Toxin Free in 12 Months, a 12-month guide to help you transition over to a toxin-free lifestyle. She also wrote a boycott list of over 600 pro-abortion companies. You can get both those resources for free and learn more at her website, safehavensmama.com. Our topic today, gut health and the GAPS diet. So this comes from, stems from an email that we had gotten from a listener, an audience member who reached out and said, hey, this GAPS diet, I've been having some great results for myself and my family. And so why not? Let's dive into it today. And again, it gives us another chance to talk about gut health. But first, we want to make sure everybody understands we're not doctors. We're not scientists. We're just regular people looking to live well and raise our family. We do believe in objective truth and in asking questions when things do not make sense. We're not giving medical advice, but we do want to offer a forum here today. We know a thing or two. There's still a ton we don't know, though. And so while we have personal experiences, so do you. We would love to hear from you as you maybe would like to share some of those personal experiences with us today. If you have any experience with the GAPS diet and you would be willing to share it with us, we put out a morning survey, but we would love to have you call in and share it over the phone with us during the show today. We'll put the phone number out in just a little bit. But Becky, as we get started on this topic, gut health and the GAPS diet in particular, I know we did a show on this, an entire show on the gut microbiome last November, right after Thanksgiving. I don't know how much of that show you recall, but a lot packed into that one. So if people want to go back to dive a little bit more into the gut microbiome, we got into a lot of details there that we won't get to today. We're going to focus more on getting to an understanding of this GAPS diet, what that is all about. But we will lay down some fundamental basics on the gut microbiome. But Becky, anything that you want to share off the top today?
Yeah, I think that we've had this requested several times in different surveys. That was usually one of the things that would come up. Or if we would do one diet, this one would always come back and say, can you do this one? So I think it's good to kind of cover it. And I know it gives you and I a chance to go through and look it up. And I've been familiar with this one for probably like 12 years now. And I think that was one of the stepping stools when I was starting to understand that, what I put in my body, what I put on my skin, what we use in our homes, regarding cleaning agents and even just shampoos and all that stuff. That was all kind of a new thing for me. And this was one of the things that came up at the same time was the GAPS diet. And I had a friend who was doing it and she was, sending me different articles. And I think she even let me borrow her book about this diet in particular. And so it was really interesting. And not at this point, but many years later, I remember kind of going back and going through some health issues. I did this diet probably for about a week, and then I realized this is something that is very particular, and that you need, certain ingredients, and you need to really dedicate the time to do this, and you got to have everybody kind of all in. And I think I had just had a baby. He was like 6 months old, and it was just a little bit too chaotic for me to kind of follow through. But from everything I've read and from people I've spoke to who have done it, I think it seems to be really worth it. And it seems to be a diet that really will get to the root of a lot of issues, which is so interesting because it just shows you that basically everything that we eat is having an effect on our body and our physical health and our mental health. And the claims that it makes is really interesting, that it can help a lot of these disorders that I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit.
Yeah, we started off by asking just why is gut health important? And I found one source that states it very simply. So I'm going to read it this way, quote, "A healthy gut means that there are more good bacteria than harmful bacteria, and that harmful bacteria doesn't overtake the good. The balance of bacteria in the gut flora can lead to many health benefits, including reducing inflammation that can lead to heart disease and lowering the chance of obesity. As one doctor states, if you maintain good gut health, it helps you in many ways. People with good gut health have more energy to go through the day. It may be a small thing, but if you're feeling well because of your good gut health, you do well overall." End of quote. When we asked in the survey, do you ever think about your gut health? Why or why not? It seemed about half of the respondents did think about it. Here are some of the responses. Anonymous said the microbes in our gut are part of our brain and our limbic system. The brain and limbic system cannot function without them. Many lifestyle decisions that are made these days end up harming these microbes, but without them, we are not whole. Rachel in China, Texas says, yes, I think about my gut health because the health of your gut determines the health of the whole body. So there's a lot to this. Some of our listeners are right on it. Gut health is about far more than just good digestion. Some experts refer to the gut microbiome as the second brain. There is this gut-brain axis. And so the gut microbiome is home to more than 100 trillion microorganisms. Some of these microorganisms are associated with disease, while others impact metabolism and weight, the immune system, cardiovascular health, and many other aspects of our well-being. The gut houses nearly 80% of our body's immune cells. If your microbiome is imbalanced, it can contribute to chronic inflammation, a common characteristic of many diseases, including autoimmune disorders. The microbiome also plays a role in your nervous system, helping to stimulate the production of neurotransmitters, including serotonin. Serotonin regulates your sleep and wake cycles and enables you to stay focused. While researchers are still studying this area, there appears to be a link between an imbalanced microbiome and the development of mood and anxiety disorders. This source continues. Gut microbes also interact with your endocrine cells, secreting the hormones that regulate certain aspects of your metabolism, including your blood sugar, hunger, and whether you are satiated. Scientists continue to study how the microbiome may influence the development of metabolic syndrome, including obesity, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes. It says, believe it or not, the state of your gut can even impact the health and appearance of your skin. An unbalanced gut may contribute to skin issues such as acne and eczema. So a lot in there, but just to say, hope you're getting the picture. This is a big deal. Our gut health really does impact our overall bodily health, which also has a big impact on our mental health, which our spiritual health is tied to this. Again, if we're having physical struggles, earthly struggles in our senses with so many things, if it's very difficult in our physical body, it is more difficult in our soul to make those good decisions that we're called to. It's no excuse not to still choose love and to make the good decisions we're called to. However, it can make things a whole lot more difficult, although in another way, it does offer more opportunity for greater virtue, if you look at it in that way. But overall, look, we want to be healthy across the board, mind, body, and soul, as much as our Lord wills. And so we want to be understanding these things and doing our part. That's what this show is trying to do, help us to have a better understanding so we can participate with God's grace to live that healthy lifestyle that He's calling us to, Becky.
Yeah, so everything you just described basically says that your gut health is connected to every part of like all of your functions. So when you look at it that way, it makes sense that that should be in order. Number one, aside from the spiritual side, when it comes to the body, let's get our gut health in order. Because if that's all true, what you just shared, then we would alleviate like 90% of the issues that we have in our health and physical and mental health. And so if there are diets out there that are willing to go through and heal our gut, I think a lot of people have experienced some disorder with their gut health, probably because a million different reasons, and we've talked about this many times. What can contribute to that would, just processed foods and stress and just all the pesticides that they're putting in foods. It just disrupts everything. It disrupts the balance on how God made it to be. And so if we look at it that way, then we basically have everything we need. So I feel like this diet is interesting because there are some drastic claims, that they're sharing, that you'll be healed from different things. And I just think it's so interesting that we could actually be curing these things through a diet alone, through food alone. And I feel like that kind of covers when we do a lot of different diets. There's a lot of people who are getting results, and it usually comes down to the elimination of processed foods and junk, and eating nutritious, healthy fats, and probably the foods that God intended us to eat. So I feel like with all the diets that we cover, you're gonna be at an advantage and be able to get some healing to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the show on the problem with processed foods that we did last week, and ultra processed foods, really what we're talking about. Very important to understand that, and that is really one of the biggest pieces of this puzzle in terms of a healthy diet, healthy gut health, is to eliminate processed foods as much as possible. There's some other good, solid general principles for your gut health. We're going to get to those when we get back, as well as we're going to get into this GAPS diet. What is it? How can it maybe be helpful to you and possibly to your family? But we want to hear from you. If you have any experience with the GAPS diet that you are willing to share with us today, 1-877-511-5483, 1-877-511-5483. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here, Wholeness and Healing Monday. We are talking about gut health and the GAPS diet. And so how about some general principles for what is good for your gut? Number one, we already talked about this, eliminating processed foods as much as possible. Going down the list here, avoid or limit sugar and artificial sweeteners. They can stimulate the growth of unhealthy bacteria in your gut. Too much alcohol can also impact your microbiome, preventing certain beneficial microorganisms from thriving. You want to eat a diverse diet, a diet rich in fiber, fruits, and vegetables, which supports a diverse microbiome. These foods provide nourishment for a wide range of beneficial microorganisms. In addition, try incorporating more probiotics and fermented foods into your diet. Probiotics and fermented foods include yogurt, sauerkraut, and kimchi, which can introduce beneficial bacteria into your gut. Prebiotics like garlic, onions, bananas, and asparagus are good options because they contain non-digestible fibers that nourish beneficial bacteria. Also, eating at the same times each day is good. There's a certain circadian rhythm to your bodily eating that is helpful to establish. Also, to have a bedtime for your gut, a time when you stop eating at night. That would be a regular limit that you put upon yourself. Also, eating smaller meals, moderation, right? The virtue of temperance. Also, managing stress, which prayer is going to be very helpful with regard to managing stress, and also prioritizing sleep. And finally here, limiting antibiotics. It says while taking antibiotics can be temporarily beneficial when sick, too many can disrupt the delicate balance of your microbiome. They not only wipe out the harmful bacteria, but also the good bacteria as well. Becky, anything else you want to share just in general on just good solid principles for healthy gut, healthy body?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered them. I would say like stress is one of the number one issues with that. And you can stress over not eating healthy enough, and you can stress over getting the right foods, or is this organic or is this not organic? And you have to also like weigh that as well. Like if you're stressed out about getting these things to have a good start in a healthy diet, it's okay to, just do your best with the diet. The last thing you want is to add in stress, because the stress actually will cause inflammation in the body and might negate the effects that you're looking for anyways. And so keep in mind that, no diet's going to be perfect. You're going to have to substitute different things here and there, and that's okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we asked people about the GAPS diet specifically, how many have heard of it. And actually, we asked how many know what it is. So not just hearing about it, but do you know what it is? Which, before diving into the research for this show, I think I could say I heard of it, but not really knowing much about what it is. However, about close to 50% of respondents said, yeah, they know what it is. So again, I want to just ask you, if you're listening right now and you not only know what the GAPS diet is, but you have some experience with it. Have you tried it? What have the results been for you? Please give us a call and let us know. 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. But let me just run down some basics here. So GAPS is an acronym for Gut and Psychology Syndrome. It's a concept that was developed by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. So on her website now, it just gives a bit of her bio. It says she graduated with honors as a medical doctor in 1984 from a university in Russia. In the following year, she gained a postgraduate degree in neurology. And then after practicing for 5 years as a neurologist and 3 years as a neurosurgeon, she started a family and moved to the UK. Fairly shortly after that, her son was diagnosed autistic, which prompted an intensive study into causes and treatments of autism. It was during this time that Dr. Campbell McBride developed her theories on the relationship between neurological disorders and nutrition and completed a second postgraduate degree in human nutrition at Sheffield University in the UK. She practiced in the UK as a nutritionist and not as a medical doctor. And I will add, I was watching something with her today, and she was telling her story and actually saying that she was able to cure her son's autism, and she believes that autism can be cured by diet and by this GAPS diet that she's promoting. And so again, we'll have a little bit more on that as we go, but this is the claim that she's making and the experience that she says she's actually had with her own son. So interesting. She says that the biography then says that she then ran the Cambridge Nutrition Clinic and trained thousands of certified GAPS practitioners around the world. And it says she closed her clinic in order to focus on writing and teaching. And as a nutritionist, she has specialized in using nutritional approach as a treatment and has become recognized as one of the world's leading experts in treating children and adults with learning disabilities and other mental disorders, as well as children and adults with digestive and immune disorders. She published a book in 2004, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, Natural Treatment of Autism, ADHD, Dyslexia, Dyspraxia, Depression, and Schizophrenia, where she explores the connection between the patient's physical state and brain function. And the book gives full details of the GAPS nutritional protocol, which we're going to get to in a little bit, which she says is highly successful in treating patients with learning disabilities and other mental problems. And also adds here that since the publication of the book, GAPS has become a global movement. So a lot there in the biography on her website. Becky, I don't know if you have any familiarity here with Dr. Natasha Campbell Bride, who is the one really behind this GAPS diet. But you know, the story about her son and curing her son of autism, very intriguing. But what else can you share with us, Becky?
Yeah, that's a really big claim, but I don't doubt that that's not, possible. I know there's a ton of connections to the gut and to learning disabilities, autism, ADD, all of that type of thing. But nobody really recognizes that. And so it makes it frustrating for parents who are dealing with children like that. And so I think it's awesome that she went ahead and used her background and figured out, all right, if there's these connections, let me try to heal his gut. Let me try to restore that. And so it does seem that, and it can happen whether, the woman during pregnancy, women are offered, vaccinations, they're offered antibiotics during pregnancy and in labor and childbirth. It's given out very routinely. Different kind of medications are given to her in pregnancy and at childbirth. And so that will naturally disrupt the gut of the unborn child. And so when the child comes out and say that they are low in healthy bacteria in their gut, and then they're introduced to, formula or the standard American diet or more vaccinations or just environmental toxins, that's just going to bring them even lower. And so I feel like it actually kind of makes a lot of sense that she would find that connection and then, go deeper. And the GAPS diet is like intense. It's not just like, all right, I'm just going to eat meat, and I'm going to cut everything out like the carnivore diet or a few other diets we've talked about. The GAPS diet is very particular. This is why I struggle to implement it, because it's and it's ingredients like that are not easy to find. And some things that just sounded gross, so you have to be a little bit open to trying new things. And I know people who have done it and been really successful for healing food allergies or different sensitivities where they had colitis or they couldn't find a diagnosis for their stomach issues. And then a friend of mine tried it, and I think she was really successful with it. And so a lot of times I've read over the years that moms will use this for children who are autistic or learning disorders. And I would say go for that, because there's not a lot of options besides putting children on medication for learning disabilities, ADD and things like that. That's kind of like the main thing that they're trying to do for kids. Like, let's just put them on this medication and see if it gets better. They're not even going that deep at all as to say maybe this is rooted in your gut. But that's not the way that God ordinarily makes people, is to deal with these type of difficulties. And it's happening to so many children, and it seems like something's wrong. And so it's really good to look at different perspectives and not just say, let's just mask these symptoms with medication, but actually let's get to the root of things. And I think it's a great option for children or moms who are wanting to help their children in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I consulted a lot of sources for the show today. There's not a lot of scientific data you can point to with the GAPS diet. It really is a lot of anecdotal, personal experience stuff where a lot of people are saying that they've seen a lot of really great results, amazing results with this diet. But yeah, the scientific data is thin. One of the reasons why that is, and maybe will be even into the future, is because it's very much a specialized, sort of individualized system. From my understanding of it, as you go about the protocol, it's not something that's going to be the same exact thing for every person. And so for that reason, it's going to be hard scientifically to really get solid studies on it. However, it can still be done. So hopefully there will be more scientific data coming out. But in one of the sources that I consulted, it said this. It said most experts agree that there is no cure for ASD, autism spectrum disorder, but that it is possible to improve health conditions associated with autism spectrum disorder, such as gastrointestinal problems, GI problems. It says that one 2014 systematic review found that children with ASD had significantly higher rates of GI symptoms than those without. The authors say that children with ASD were more prone to abdominal pain, constipation, and diarrhea, and some research suggests that these symptoms are linked to unbalanced gut microbiota and dysbiosis. So very interesting. So there's some data that does kind of point that there's some sort of a connection here, that if we can clear up the GI problems, that it may have an effect in alleviating the ASD. And again, the doctor here, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, even claiming that she thinks it can cure it, and that she has seen that in her own son. So very interesting. There's a lot here, but if you have any experience with the GAPS diet, we want to hear from you today. Give us a call, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. Becky, I want to add this too, that she also wrote a book in 2017 called Vegetarianism Explained, Making an Informed Decision, because it says she came across many young people who have chosen a plant-based lifestyle and as a result became very ill, and that this prompted an intense study into the value of plant foods versus animal foods. And the result of the study is her book. And she gives full scientific description in the book of how animal and plant foods are digested and used by the human body. And it says the book is an essential read for those who are considering a plant-based lifestyle. It is important to understand all the dangers of vegetarianism and veganism for human health. We did a show on that as well, not too far back, but yeah, didn't consult this book, so I'm not sure what exactly is in it, but an interesting resource. And then finally, from her website, she also has something called the No Plant GAPS diet. So it seems like the GAPS diet itself would include plants, would include vegetables, would include various plants in the diet, but then there's also this variation that she's come up with, the No Plant GAPS diet, and she says that's for people with severe health problems who struggle to heal with any other treatment, autoimmunity, severe allergies, hormonal, neurological, mental illnesses, epilepsy, and any other chronic diseases respond to this form of diet beautifully. So there's a lot more to get to here when we come back. Stay tuned.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network presents Saints and Seasons. On April 22nd, we celebrate the feast of Saints Soter and Caius, popes and martyrs. These two holy pontiffs have shared a feast day in the Roman Rite for hundreds of years. Soter succeeded Pope St. Anicetus around the year of our Lord 167. His reign was marked by great charity and almsgiving, not only in Rome itself, but directly to other churches throughout the empire. Soter also opposed the heresy of Montanism, which falsely claimed new prophets who spoke while undergoing supposed spiritual ecstasies. Soter was martyred around the year of our Lord 174. Caius was possibly a native of Dalmatia, and was said to be a relative of both the Emperor Diocletian and Saints Gabinus and Susanna. He succeeded Pope St. Eutychian in the year of our Lord 283, and encouraged St. Sebastian and many other martyrs in their trials. Caius ordered that to be consecrated, all bishops must proceed through the minor and major orders, those being porter, lector, exorcist, acolyte, subdeacon, deacon, and priest. This pontiff's reign concluded in 296 with his great sufferings under persecution and exile, earning him the title of martyr. Also honored on this day are Saints Apelles and Lucius, early disciples of our Lord, Saint Leonides of Alexandria, Saint Theodore of Sicyon, Saint Oportuna, and many other martyrs, confessors, and holy virgins. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons.
Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here. Wholeness and Healing Monday. We're talking about the GAPS diet today, gut health and the GAPS diet to be exact. But first, the Station of the Cross has partnered with mycatholicwill.com. And as we reflect upon our lives, our families, our journey to heaven, you can have some peace of mind when the unexpected happens by creating a no-cost My Catholic Will. You can learn more at mycatholicwill.com/the Station of the Cross and use our referral code 14 stations. That's 14 stations. There's even an option to include the Station of the Cross in your will, should you want to make sure that this resource is available for generations to come. That's mycatholicwill.com/the Station of the Cross with the no-cost referral code 14 stations. All right, Becky, back to the GAPS diet. Anything further for us that you want to say on it in general, or you want to dive into the actual protocol, how it might be helpful for folks if they can kind of understand the way that this thing works, the various components of this diet?
Yeah, I would say it's time to dive in. I feel like we gave a pretty good introduction of where it came from and how we're going to use it. And now I would say that, and the nice thing is that, yeah, the book is really recommended when you do the GAPS diet because it does provide recipes and such, but there is a lot of information online, especially for the introduction diet and where you start. It's not as thorough, but it kind of gives you a really good idea of kind of what it would be like and the different foods you would use, which in the introduction, it's very minimal. But yeah, I think we should just get right into it.
Great. Yeah. Do you want to get it started, or you want me to take it off the top? What do you think?
Depends on what you have. I think it. I don't know what you're reading from. We usually have different sources, but I'm
I'll just throw one simple thing at you, and then if you want to take it from there. So from what I see, it's basically made up of 3 stages. There's this introduction phase, which is elimination, and then there's the maintenance phase, which is the diet itself, and then a reintroduction phase, which is transitioning out of the diet. But all of this seems to take a lot of time. I mean, we're talking years in getting through all of these phases. But anything else you want to share, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to start with the introduction diet. So depending on what you're struggling with, how severe your condition is, this is highly recommended, the introduction diet. But if you're just doing it to kind of clean up your diet, or maybe don't have such severity in what you're dealing with, they say, you can skip this part. But this part was interesting as I went through it. And it's the beginning, the introduction diet is designed to heal and seal the gut lining quickly. It achieves this aim by providing 3 factors. The first is large amounts of nourishing substances for the gut lining with easy to digest substances, removing fiber and inflammatory agents that are irritating to the gut lining and may interfere with the healing process, and then adding in probiotics, which is beneficial bacteria, to repopulate and diversify the microbiome. So it starts off with that. And within this one, even within this introduction diet, there are 6 different stages. This you can all find on the, let me just double check, it's the website gapsdiet.com. There's a really helpful introduction diet PDF that they provide. It's about 4 pages long, and it kind of goes through. It almost seems like it's a sheet that a naturopath or a physician is using to guide a patient through the diet, but it can certainly be used just by yourself. It kind of goes into detail. So it says you start with every morning, start the day with a cup of still filtered water. And then this is why I said that, because it says give your patient a probiotic, make sure that the water is warm or room temperature. Cold will aggravate his or her condition. So only foods listed are allowed. Your patient may have nothing else. So on the first stage, the most drastic symptoms of abdominal pain, diarrhea, and constipation will quickly subside. If and when you introduce a new food, your patient gets back any of those symptoms previous, he or she is not ready for that food to be introduced. So wait for a week and then try again. So yeah, this is kind of a longer phase diet. It really helps you weed out any allergies, and then it slowly brings in different foods. They also recommend sensitivity tests. So if you are, questioning what you're sensitive to, you can take a drop of the food in question and place it on the inside of the wrist of the patient. Do you do it at bedtime? And then you wake up and see if there's a reaction. If so, you would avoid that food for a few weeks and then try again. So they are trying to help heal your gut so that you can eat the foods that you want to eat. I'm not talking about like junk food or processed food. I'm just talking about people who might be sensitive to dairy or, the essentials of what we eat every day. And then it really goes through like how to make the meat stock or the fish stock. So that's like the bulk of the introductory diet, where you're just having a lot of homemade meat and fish stock. You're slowly adding in little bits of meat, little bits of cooked veggies, and then small amounts of like sauerkraut or probiotic foods gradually. And I'm talking like when they go through it, they're saying like 1 to 2 teaspoons a day for 2 to 5 days, then 2 to 3 teaspoons a day for 2 to 5 days. So this is pretty serious. This is what I think that, she meant, and a lot of kids who are autistic struggle with a lot of digestive issues. So that's why she goes so slow, because you might get a really heavy reaction from your child during one of these, introductory sections. So it's really interesting. I find this so interesting to kind of go through. She gives you different, things to eat in between, and then you're slowly going to add in organic egg yolks. You can slowly add in a little bit of fermented fish. As I hear that, I feel like that sounds really gross. So I'm not really sure how somebody's going to make fermented fish. Introducing homemade ghee, avocados, and you can make your own pancakes. So I don't want to go through this whole thing, but it's very detailed. It's very interesting, and it's very slow. But I think that from what we've heard and why she did it this way is because that's what's going to be working for especially people with these severe ailments that are not working by conventional ways, but they need some drastic, some drastic measures taken.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a logic to it, right? To eliminate everything and then start adding things in slowly and see how your body reacts and then go from there. So it does say that in order to determine when it's time to move on to the next stage, you must experience normal bowel movements on a consistent basis and tolerate each food in the current stage you are in without any reactions. So that's how you would know. So then once every stage of that introduction phase is complete, however long that takes, then you move on to the full GAPS diet, also known as the maintenance phase. But that introduction phase, it says here from what I'm reading from that it could last anywhere between 3 weeks to 1 year, depending upon the severity of your symptoms. And it's the most difficult phase because of how restrictive it is in terms of what you're allowed to eat. You're going to be hungry, it sounds like. You're going to be very hungry during this stage if you're used to eating big meals, especially. And so, what I'm looking at, the 6 stages, broken down, pretty specific in terms of what's there in each stage. And you're really going to have to go into something like this with a very exact battle plan, what you're going to do, and then you're going to have to shop accordingly, and it's going to be difficult to implement. It's going to take a lot of time to really implement this well and to do the planning that would be necessary for it. But I guess what value is it to you to be able to understand what foods your body best responds to and what foods it doesn't very well respond to? You're going to figure that out on this protocol. It certainly seems like so. Very interesting. I like stage 4 here, where it seems like not only do you get to add in some olive oil, some cold pressed olive oil, some roasted or grilled meats, some fresh pressed carrot juice, but also GAPS recipe milkshakes. That sounds good. GAPS recipe bread in stage 4 as well. Kind of like the sound of that. But there's a lot of stages here in these 6 stages, a lot of different things going on here, but intriguing. Intriguing is the word that comes to mind with all of this. Becky, any more?
Yeah, I just want to go through, I don't think we fully named all of the conditions that maybe somebody would try this for. So I just want to go through and name some of that so that people are aware of why you would even do a diet like this and if it's the right one for you. Because like we mentioned earlier, this is more heavy, a lot more planning. A lot of the diets we've covered before seem a little bit easier, just like removing things. But this is adding a lot of different things in. So you would start with, and this is what Dr. Natasha recommends and who she made this for and who she's seen success with, but it's not limiting. It's just because you don't have one of these, things, it doesn't mean you cannot do it. So she starts with people with autistic spectrum disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, schizophrenia, dyslexia, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, other neuropsychological or psychiatric problems. And then you go on to the chronic physical conditions, which would stem from an unhealthy gut. And you can work with anybody with autoimmune conditions, which would be celiac, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes type 1, MS, Crohn's disease, colitis, autoimmune skin problems, Hashimoto's, and other hormonal problems. And then you have asthma, eczema, various allergies, food allergies, and intolerance, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, endocrine disorders such as thyroid, adrenal, and other chronic infections, many neurological diseases, and all chronic digestive disorders such as IBS, gastritis, colitis, etc. So those are just, that sounds like a lot actually, but why somebody would maybe take on a diet like this, it's almost like you're starting new, like brand new, wipe everything out, and then slowly add in these small amounts of foods, and it starts mainly with broth. And so they're trying to get in fish broth or bone broth. And I think they start with that because it's so healing for the gut. I'm sure people have heard that, if you want to heal your gut, drink bone broth. I mean, they even sell it in the store now because it became kind of widely known for that. And so, starting with that as your base every single day for every single meal. And yeah, you don't want to be somebody who is, you have to really be careful. Maybe somebody who has serious adrenal issues where you need meat, you need protein in order to, go about your day, or somebody who struggles with POTS, and they need the protein and they need the fiber. So it's not for everybody, because you are going to probably lose some weight, and you are going to be, it's probably for somebody who's kind of desperate, somebody who cannot eat certain foods, who can't eat steak. There are people who cannot eat meat. And so this would be a great way to start with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does include meat, though, even in this the introductory phase for. But you're right. I mean, one of the cons of this, and I'm not finding too many that people say that there's any detriment to going about this GAPS protocol, this GAPS diet. But one that I do see, I guess, is that so it's restrictive and may lack certain nutrients. Some say making long-term adherence challenging. So I don't know exactly what those certain nutrients would be that it would be lacking. It seems to be whole foods and pretty broad once you get into the 6 stages of that introductory phase, and then you're getting into the next phase, which is even more. And then you're in the reintroduction phase where you can start slowly adding back really anything you want, it seems like, and seeing how your body reacts to it. Of course, you're going to be eating pretty clean, because if you're starting to put processed foods back in, I think you're going to find the body doesn't react very well to that. And you're going to, it's one thing to, I guess, know the scientific data. It's another thing to know it through experience. You're going to learn a lot by experience doing this GAPS protocol. So certainly something that seems very, very interesting. Again, if you have any comment, question on this, the GAPS protocol, the GAPS diet, especially if you have any experience with it that you'd be willing to share, give us a call, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. We also asked folks, are there any other actions you take to better your gut health? If so, what results have you experienced? One said, my IBS was cured when I switched to a meat-only diet. I also lost 50 pounds and am the healthiest I've ever been. Mary in Boston says, eat small meals. We also have an anonymous response that we're going to get to when we get back as well. That's quite good. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here discussing the GAPS diet today, and gut health and physical health, our spiritual health as well, always tied to everything that we're talking about here. We did get a response from Anonymous who says, I worked as a GAPS practitioner, trained by Dr. Natasha for several years until the Holy Spirit called me to help in new ways. I still incorporate aspects of GAPS in my practice. Healing prayer is key. There are emotional, physical, and spiritual components that affect the health and vitality of the microbiome. There are many, many natural approaches to healing the microbiome, but number one needs to be healing prayer. So we thank you for that, Anonymous. And I'd love to hear more about specifically what your protocol is when it comes to healing prayer, especially what you're finding to be effective. How do you go about this healing prayer? What does it look like specifically, and how you are making use of this? So if you're willing to share that with us, reach out to us. You can email me, jimh@thestationofthecross.com. That's jimh@thestationofthecross.com. Let's go to the phone lines now. We've got Dan from Rochester, New York. Welcome to the program. Dan, what is your comment or question for today?
Yeah, I'm just calling about the gut health. I'm not familiar with the GAP diet, but as I heard your conversation, I just wanted to share that when eating, I'm actually on medication that causes anxiety, and I don't have anxiety. And one of the reasons is because, like the gentleman who called the Anonymous, he says, or you left a message, he said that, prayer life. And of course, I go to mass regularly, so, and daily as much as I can. So, that in itself is key, along with the rosary, that type of thing. Your prayer life is so important. And the other one is I eat, like you said, only eat a certain time of day. I take it with my medication. And so the times I do is like 4 times a day, but the first one is just something small, just so I can doesn't bother my stomach. But the others, and you wait by offering it up, it's like there's a double whammy when it comes to your gut health, because you're offering that up to God too as a fasting for someone else who's less fortunate, or somebody, or to end terrible sins on earth or whatever. And that is so peaceful. It brings so much peace to you when you offer that up for those reasons. And I don't eat sugar. I cut that out because it was bringing on seizures, and I said, let me cut it out of my diet. And so I'll just have, like, for dessert, like a peanut butter banana sandwich, and I have my fruit and everything. But it's like, you don't miss it after a while. And and I can't say enough about, like, if you look at the eggs you buy, like the white domestic eggs, there's like 6% vitamin D per egg. But you go up to the organic, the brown one, same size, it's 30% your vitamin D. And, and it's worth spending a little more for yourself, and your children. And little things like even salad. If you don't have time to cook, just the romaine, the vitamin K in that, just romaine lettuce I'll do sometimes. That's it. With balsamic vinegar and olive oil, some salt and pepper. And my kids just eat that, you see. And it's we eat that together, and I cook wild game all the time. And it's like nutrition magnified. If you ever cook, like a turkey I had a year and a half ago, I cooked it for an hour and a half, and you can't even pull apart those ligaments. I mean, it's so strong. And it's on the wings, when I cooked into my soup, I says, I can't get over how good wild game is for you, because there's so much nutrition in it. So if you have an option at the store, really consider those things. But prayer life and fasting and just offering that up, that's so much peace. And it definitely makes a difference in my life. And I hope other people jump on board for all the same reasons. And God bless your show. Thank you for letting me call.
Yeah, God bless you, Dan. Awesome. Yeah, great call. Dan in Rochester, New York. And it sounds like he's feeling spiritual, strong, physically healthy, all good things. But yeah, there is an element of sacrifice to this, at least in the beginning. Just this is the way virtue works, just like Dan was describing. Hard at first, but after you're doing it a while and you build up that good habit, it becomes easy. You don't even necessarily think about it anymore. It's just something that you do that just becomes normal and easy. And that's a sign of a virtue, of a good habit being firmly established. So yeah, a lot of great things in that call from Dan in Rochester, New York. Becky, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan. I feel like that's really motivating for me personally, and I'm sure all the listeners, because that's the hardest part, is just starting it and then realizing that, the different diets that we've done in the past, you don't miss the sugar, you don't miss the junk food, because you don't eat it. It's not even, you don't even have a question about it. You don't buy it, you don't eat it, so you don't even think about it. It's just over. And then you're not connected to it in that way. It's just out of your mind, and you're not reliant on that. So you can be free in a way. So there is a freedom, I feel like, with certain diets, and you're actually just eating for your health. You're not eating for just the pleasure of eating. You're eating to sustain your body and to have the things that are going to nourish you in order to, complete your daily tasks. And I probably would assume that most of us don't eat that way, and myself included. And so you fall into bad habits, or seasons get difficult, and you kind of just do what you can. But if you lay down good foundations, like it seems Dan has, then when things start to change in your life or different situations come up, and it's just already a habit. So you just keep eating that way. I love how he said his kids will just eat some romaine lettuce with some dressing. Now, some of our kids would definitely do that, but some of them would never. They would never be into that, and they would definitely complain about that. And so, I love that that's what it is, and that's what we're doing, and you get used to it, and it's nourishing. So, thanks a lot for that call, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dan. Yeah, for some reason, the scripture is coming to my mind of our Lord when he is saying, look, you already received your comfort on earth, right? I think he says this a couple times in various gospels. And this idea of you're trying to take your comfort on earth when now is the time to really offer sacrifice, right? You have your comfort later for all eternity. But the fact is that when we do that good that we are called to, this works across the board. And I think it's working in this area as well. Dan is highlighting that that when we don't go after the comfort in terms of our tongue and in our I guess our the satisfaction of our stomach, when our God is not our stomach, and we are actually making that reasonable decision to say, you know what, I'm gonna eat food that is actually going to be good and healthy for my body, because yes, I want to be strong and healthy to live my vocation well and do what I'm being called to do, but also it allows me to offer up all these other areas and to experience a little bit of hunger, to experience the mortification of wanting to taste something or wanting to fill my stomach with something and saying no, and making an offering of that, right? A form of fasting, and adding that as not just a bodily fasting, but also adding that to prayer and making that a prayer of petition for others. So much good there. And then, we actually do have, we're gaining comfort in a better way, in a deeper way, a more important way, which is you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more healthy in your body. That's kind of the irony of it. As you make this sacrifice long term, you're actually going to be feeling better, even though in the short term, it's hard. It doesn't feel good to make those sacrifices. It doesn't feel good to feel hungry or to give up these foods that have become your favorite go-to foods when you're feeling whatever you're feeling, stressed out or tired or whatever, and then you want this treat or you want that thing. To be able to sacrifice that, to say no at first, is very, very difficult, but it gets easier as you keep doing it, as you build that good habit, that good virtue, and we can ask God's help and He will give us that help as we pray and ask Him to strengthen us. So a lot in there that is worth reflecting on. Becky, anything else before we close it out today?
Yeah, I would just say, prayerfully discern when it comes to diets, what the motivation is. Is it for your health? Is it for the way you look? And just give it all to God and just ask Him, how does He want to use this for you? And just it's not for everybody. Not every diet is for everybody. But when you bring it to prayer, I feel like He's going to have a good solution for you and for your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I just love how we can really see this in the big picture, right? And that it's not just about a diet. It's not just about your bodily health. This is about so much more when we really tie everything together as it really is. We are a composite of body and soul. That's what it is to be human. And so to be able to offer things up with our bodily appetites and to be able to make this a spiritual offering, just beautiful. God bless you all.